The Third Secret of Fatima was never fully revealed, and those who tried were silenced. For over a century, the world has lived under the shadow of a secret heaven entrusted to 3 shepherd children. A vision so terrifying that even Sister Lucia wept when she saw it. A vision the Vatican would later claim to reveal in full, but which, according to whispers from within the Church, was incomplete. The true core was missing, the fire from heaven, the betrayal from within. The final warning from the Queen of Heaven. Why was it hidden? Because the truth would shake the very foundations of the Church. Now, as the world trembles on the brink of war, as nations rise against nations, as even the Church finds itself torn between tradition and modernity, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle has done something unthinkable. Underneath Vatican City, in a private chamber where only the highest-ranking clergy are allowed, Cardinal Tagle entered alone. And what he emerged with was not just a message, it was a burden, a calling, a revelation that heaven had sealed for decades, and that man had tried to bury. But prophecy cannot be buried. It began quietly, an unannounced speech at a private theological gathering in Rome. He spoke of unity, of coming trials, of a global moment of awakening. But those who listened closely knew something had shifted. A trembling priest in the crowd recognized the words. They weren't just homiletic metaphors. They were lines directly lifted from Sister Lucia's final unpublished letters that the Vatican claimed had never existed. Then came the photograph. A leaked image, an aged document with the papal seal and 3 chilling words scrawled across the top. Illuminatio conscientiae mundi. Illumination of the world's conscience. Within hours, the Vatican denied its authenticity. But within days, the world began to change. A solar phenomenon appeared over Jerusalem. Thousands witnessed it, the same spinning sun described in 1917. In South Korea, an entire congregation reported hearing the voice of a woman weeping during Mass, though no one was present near the altar. And in Manila, where Cardinal Tagle once served as Archbishop, a teenage girl entered a coma, only to wake up 3 days later, speaking fluent Latin and crying, "He is coming, the light is coming." Cardinal Tagle remained silent, but his silence only deepened the mystery. Inside the Vatican, tensions rose. Pope Leo XIV, elected in a storm of controversy, was said to have held a midnight conclave with only 3 cardinals present. Eyewitnesses saw the papal guards seal the apostolic palace at dawn, and in a mass that following Sunday the Pope declared, "A moment is approaching when all of humanity shall see itself in the mirror of heaven's justice." The crowd applauded, but many wept, because the words were identical to those Sister Lucia wrote in her hidden prophecy. Before the great chastisement, there will come the day of the burning light, a moment when every soul shall see itself as God sees it. This was not coincidence. This was fulfillment. Behind closed doors, certain cardinals pushed back. They feared mass hysteria, division, apostasy. They whispered that Cardinal Tagle was too close to the visionaries, that his belief in divine signs made him dangerous, that his recent travels to Portugal, Medjugorje, and even Garabandal were not merely pastoral. And then, one morning, without any announcement, the great painting of the Last Judgment inside the Vatican Museums was removed for restoration. What was found behind it has not been officially revealed. But one Vatican employee, an archivist named Pietro, leaked a single sentence to a journalist before vanishing. They painted over the 4th part of the secret. 4th part? The world had only been told there were 3. And then, without warning, Cardinal Tagle disappeared from public view. No press conference, no mass, no explanation. A private jet was seen leaving Ciampino Airport, headed for the Balkans. No manifest, no passengers listed. Just a Vatican coat of arms on the tail. For 10 days, silence. Until yesterday. A private broadcast aired on an encrypted Vatican channel, only accessible to clergy. But someone leaked it. It showed Cardinal Tagle standing before a simple wooden cross, his eyes red from weeping. I have seen the scroll. I have read what Lucia could not speak. The time is not far. The light will come like fire. Every soul will be known. Every mask will fall. Do not be afraid. Return to the sacraments. Stay with the church. For what is coming will not only test our faith, it will reveal who we truly are. The screen went black. Within hours, websites crashed. Catholic networks pulled the footage. The Vatican denied everything, but it was too late. The church has seen scandals before, betrayals, darkness, but this was different. A chilling email began circulating among bishops. Prepare for the Illumination. It begins with the priesthood. Confess now. Warn the faithful. The Queen is no longer weeping. She is calling. Then came the message scrawled in chalk outside the Basilica of St. John Lateran. The third secret was sealed with blood. The scroll is now open. Pray. More signs. A cloistered nun in Spain screamed during adoration, then collapsed. Witnesses say she uttered the words, "Tagle has broken the chain. The hourglass is cracked. Michael draws his sword." A storm struck Rome that night. Lightning hit the dome of St. Peter's Basilica again, just like it did the night Pope Benedict resigned, and in the skies over Fatima, pilots reported seeing an apparition in the clouds, a woman in white, arms outstretched, heart aflame. What was hidden is rising. What was sealed is unfolding, and in the shadows of the Vatican, whispers grow louder. The last pope, the final trial, the great warning. Because if Cardinal Tagle truly has unlocked the final piece of the third secret, then the world may soon witness what was meant to remain hidden until the end of days. And this time, no one will be able to deny the signs. For centuries, the bride of Christ, the Holy Catholic Church, has stood as a light in the darkness, a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. But in these last days, that light flickers, not from lack of power, but because a storm has come. And now, even within the marble pillars of the Vatican, the battle between heaven and hell has reached its crescendo. Cardinal Tagle's message was not just a warning, it was a rupture, a spiritual earthquake that tore open what had long been buried beneath decades of silence, diplomacy, and fear. Because deep within the church, there are those who never wanted the full truth of Fatima to be known. They call themselves guardians of prudence. But the saints have another word for them, those who fear the fire of prophecy. And now the fire has come. As the leaked broadcast circulated among bishops and monastic orders, something unexplainable began happening. Tabernacle lamps began flickering wildly during silent adoration in cloisters across Europe. In one Carmelite convent in Poland, a host began to glow with an unnatural light. The Mother Superior wept, falling prostrate, crying out, "The bridegroom approaches, and his eyes are flames of justice." In Manila, a crowd of pilgrims gathered in silence at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. They had heard whispers that Tagle would return. But what arrived was a letter, unsigned but sealed with red wax and stamped with an emblem not seen in public since 1957, the Secretum Fatimae seal. The letter read, "This is the hour of sifting. The shepherds shall be struck, the sheep will tremble, but the Immaculate Heart shall triumph. Remain in the ark of Peter. The tempest will break upon the church before it touches the world." Within hours, the Vatican's press office claimed the letter was theatrical fiction. But then a retired cardinal, previously silent for years, released a cryptic statement on his private blog. "I was there in 1978. I held the envelope. I read the part the world was never meant to see. And I tell you, what Tagle has touched is real. The church must prepare. No name, no further post, but those who know understood." Because in 1978, during the short reign of Pope John Paul III, whose mysterious death remains one of the church's most haunting enigmas, the Vatican's secret vaults were open to only 3 cardinals. One of them was the man who just spoke. Tagle, young and brilliant, deeply Marian, and beloved in the East, is not just any cardinal. He is Filipino by blood, Roman by formation, and above all Marian by soul. In his youth, he walked barefoot, in processions dedicated to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. As a bishop, he wept publicly during consecrations. And now, heaven has chosen him to carry the scroll others feared to read. But not all in Rome support this mission. Within the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith, a faction known only by whispers as Custodes Umbrae, the guardians of the shadow, has begun meeting in private. They believe the world is not ready, that to unveil the full third secret would cause a mass spiritual panic, a collapse of ecclesial trust, and chaos in the hierarchy. They call Tagle the Dove of Fire, a title spoken with both reverence and dread. According to one source inside the Vatican library, this group has already begun attempting to reclassify the hidden documents as apocryphal, even though they bear Sister Lucia's signature, the seal of Pope Pius XV, and the bloodied fingerprint of a martyred priest who once dared to read it aloud and died that same night. Yes, the battle is not just prophetic, it is mystical warfare. Because what the third secret truly reveals is not only the martyrdom of a pope, nor even the persecution of the church. It speaks of an illumination, a moment of cosmic clarity when every soul on earth will see its eternal state before God. A divine warning, a merciful jolt, a mini judgment before the judgment. And the most terrifying part? According to the hidden part of the prophecy, many will reject it, even priests, even bishops, even some cardinals. The Holy Father, Pope Leo XIV, knows this. In the privacy of his chapel, he has begun offering the Mass facing east again, in silence, tears streaming down his face. It is said he no longer sleeps, that he has entrusted the papal ring to be held at night by a Dominican friar because he fears what visions may come in his dreams. In his most recent Angelus, he whispered, "The time of the martyrs is near, and I shall not flee." Then, the camera cut. There are rumors, unconfirmed but circulating widely among Catholic circles, that the Pope has written a letter to be read only upon his death. In it, he confirms that he too read the fourth part of the Fatima secret, and that it points to a moment when Rome itself will be struck, not by bombs or fire, but by betrayal from within. The purification of the Church. The bride of Christ has begun, but so has the mission of mercy. Cardinal Tagle is not merely exposing secrets, he is preparing the world for the greatest act of divine justice and divine mercy since Calvary, the illumination of conscience, and the signs are multiplying. In Rwanda, a Marian seer awoke from 30 years of silence and cried out, "The scroll burns, the seal is broken, Michael has descended." In Rome, the statue of St. Peter in the Basilica was seen by 3 separate tourists shedding a tear of oil on June 13th, the anniversary of one of the original Fatima apparitions, and most chillingly, a young seminarian in Mexico collapsed during Eucharistic adoration. When revived, he said, "I saw Rome split. One part glowed with gold, the other turned to ash, and above it all, a voice cried, 'She will be cleansed by flame.'" The church is not collapsing. She is being refined. Her gold is tested in fire. Her heart pierced again beside her bridegroom's. The scroll is open. The Queen of Heaven no longer pleads. She commands, "Return to my son." And in the shadows of the Vatican, among hidden catacombs and ancient relics, a war of spirits has erupted. Those who want the scroll resealed, and those who now kneel before the Lamb, crying out, "Come, Lord Jesus, your bride is ready." And so, in the very heart of Christendom, where marble saints line corridors walked by martyrs and popes, the air is no longer still. Rome breathes with tension. The Vatican itself has become the battlefield, not of sword and shield, but of soul and truth. The bride of Christ, adorned in centuries of glory and suffering, now walks barefoot through the valley of purification. Every prayer, every mass, every rosary offered in silence is now a weapon. And yet the enemies of heaven do not sleep. Inside those hallowed halls, behind frescoed ceilings and oaken doors, the ancient enemy whispers again, "Did God really say this must be revealed?" The Custodes Umbrae, the silent faction in the Vatican, moves swiftly. They've begun quietly reassigning priests loyal to Cardinal Tagle. Archives have been sealed. Surveillance increased. Even the Pope's inner circle has been infiltrated, and a chilling document, leaked under the codename Domus Tenebrarum, warns of a plan to prevent any public release of the Illuminatio Conscientiae Mundi. But what they don't understand is this: the secret is no longer a document. It's a wave of divine fire now flooding the conscience of the world. In parishes across Latin America, people have begun collapsing during consecration, overwhelmed by sudden visions of their sins in God's light. In Ireland, a blind man reportedly saw Our Lady descending from the tabernacle during Mass and then wept for 5 hours, repeating, "She is not done speaking. The world has not listened." And yet, amid these miraculous flashes of mercy, there is a gathering storm. The church is splitting, not formally, but spiritually. On one side, those who cling to heaven, to Mary, to the sacraments. On the other, those who wish to modernize away every miracle, every mystery, every Marian tear. But this is not the time to doubt. It is the time to choose. One Vatican official, overcome with conviction after hearing Tagle's hidden address, leaked a list, never before seen, of 5 seals allegedly tied to the last part of the Fatima secret. Each one a sign that the bride is approaching her passion: the broken ciborium, desecration from within the sanctuary, the silent angelus, when Rome's bells cease to ring, the mirror of judgment, when souls across the earth see their eternity for 15 minutes, the Petrine eclipse, when the Pope shall vanish from public view, but not from the world, the triumphal flame, when fire shall fall, not to destroy, but to separate light from shadow. 3 have already occurred. The 4th has begun. Just days ago, Pope Leo XIII was expected to appear at the World Eucharistic Congress. The stage was set, flags waved, the faithful waited in song. But when the papal curtain opened, he was not there. Instead, a lone priest walked forward. He carried only a crucifix and a voice recording of the Holy Father, shaking, weeping, praying, "I am still here. But heaven has asked me to descend into the garden. The agony has begun. I will not leave the church. But the world must look for me with the eyes of the heart. What comes now will not be televised. It will be written in the spirit of every soul." Gasps, silence, then sobs. No further statement was issued, but behind the Swiss guard, one nun fainted. A bishop reportedly dropped his crozier. And somewhere in the crowd, a dove landed on a woman's shoulder, refused to fly away, and began glowing. That woman, a descendant of Jacinta Marto. Yes, the same Jacinta of Fatima. Coincidence? Heaven does not deal in coincidence. And as for Cardinal Tagle, he has not been seen since. Some say he has gone underground like the early fathers. Others believe he is with the Holy Father, hidden in prayer, fasting in preparation for the 5th seal. But a few, a sacred few, believe he has already been taken, not by force, but by fire. Eyewitnesses at the monastery of St. Michael in the Pyrenees, where he was last seen, claim a thunderous sound filled the mountain one night. The chapel shook, and when the monks ran in, they found only his cardinal zucchetto glowing faintly on the altar. A single word burned into the wood below it: fiat. Let it be done. And now, the final twist. Tonight, as you listen to this message, one final report has just emerged. Unconfirmed, unthinkable. St. Peter's tomb has been opened. Not by archaeologists, not by the Vatican, but by a supernatural force. Guards were thrown back. The tomb's inner gate was shattered, not by tool or bomb, but by light, and inside, etched into the stone sarcophagus, a Latin phrase never seen before: Ecclesia purificata, sponsa parata, tempus est. The church is purified. The bride is ready. The time has come. Let that settle in your soul. The secret is no longer secret. The battle is no longer hidden. The bride of Christ no longer sleeps. And now, all of heaven watches. Because the scroll has been unsealed, and you, yes, you, are now living in the days the prophets wept to see. This is not the end. It is the unveiling. The light is coming. Will you be ready when it breaks the sky? Pray, fast, confess, stay with Peter, because the next voice the world hears may be the voice of the Lamb.